The third advanced WordPress speed optimization technique I'm going to be talking to you about is something called PJAX. Now, PJAX is the combination of something called PushState and AJAX. What those two things are, I won't go over in much detail within the context of this video lecture, but for those uber nerds such as myself that do want to know exactly what those things are and what they constitute, I will be putting material that will explain precisely what those two things are in the addendum to this section. Now, PJAX works in a very similar way, or gives us a similar end result, as does and relates very closely to browser hinting, in that we get to, by implementing it, we get to preload, pre-render pages, and therefore when a user lands on a page and then navigates throughout our site, PJAX will essentially turn our site into a one-page site. It completely eliminates latency. The primary difference between, say, a pre-render browser hint and something like PJAX is that the preloading is actually initiated by the user. We don't have to guess as to where they're going to go next on our website, because they themselves are initiating the preloading of a page. And how it works is that they see a link and they want to go to that link. So they hover over extensions here. Let's actually go into the site. They land on your site and they mouse over to a link. Now, what PJAX does is the moment they begin to hover over that, there's a 200 to 300 millisecond lag time between when someone hovers over a link and when they click the link. Now, what PJAX does is load that page in the background the moment the user begins to hover over it, and therefore it is user initiated. So if they hover on this, instant, etc. Now, the effect of this can be seen. Let's click on some tags here. Instantaneous page loads from page to page. You'll notice, look up here, you'll see there is no loading. We've essentially, again, turned our website, and you're going to do this too, into a one-page site. There is no latency. Until very recently, the only effective way to get this done was coding it in, and but there have been some plugins in the past that have attempted to make use of PJAX, and they sort of failed miserably. But one has come along instantly that is surprisingly good and surprisingly compatible across a diverse range of websites and environments. And the name of that plugin that utilizes PJAX, which is PushState plus AJAX, is Instant Click. Let's take a look at the details. Instant Click dramatically speeds up your website, making navigation effectively instant in most cases. This plugin is the easiest way of adding Instant Click to your WordPress theme. Before visitors click on a link, they hover over that link, and between these two events, as I mentioned, 200 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds usually passes. And he's got a link to a test here. So, as instant as that seemed, there was 285 milliseconds, and then the mouse down event was 87 milliseconds. So as you can see, in that small span of time, Instant Click will load whatever link that they're hovering over. So we've already got this installed, and it is over here in settings, I believe. Yeah, there it is right there. And in here you can particularize Instant Click. For some of you, it'll be a small percentage, but for some of you, you'll be able to merely install and activate, and you're good to go. Some of you will not, however, and I'll explain that, and then we'll troubleshoot some things here in a minute. Let's talk about general settings, however. Now, the preload. You can set just how refined you want this to be. I would recommend you do it on hover, but there are other lesser options. Hover start after 50 milliseconds or after 100 milliseconds. This is if you want to make absolutely sure, I suppose, that the user is going to click whatever it is that they're going to click. But how often do you yourself hover over a link you don't intend to click? And then there's the mouse down options. And then here in this text field, the No Instant Scripts option lists the handles of scripts that you don't want to reload when Instant Click loads a page. Put a single handle on each line. So something like contact form 7, etc. One per line here. This does not always work. However, this particular feature does not always work depending upon your site and setup, and therefore the best way to handle no instant scripts, in other words, the scripts you don't want reloaded when Instant Click loads a page. In other words, scripts that you don't want to be reprocessed when a user goes back to a certain page. The easiest way, or the best way rather, is to install the links, or list rather, your JavaScript files. The single ones, if you're one of those who are able to get a single one without having to exclude anything from auto-optimize, those single files, some of them will differ from page to page depending upon what you have going on. And that presents a difficulty for Instant Click because it works basically off the premise that all of the JavaScript will be the same from page to page to page to page. And that's not always the case, actually rarely the case. Some of you will have a lot of even page-specific JavaScript and therefore a lot of different auto-optimized files. And you can see here in this appendation that is added to all of the files, these are all different files. Now these represent the totality of the JavaScript files that we have on our website. And this can be seen, I'll show you, here on the FAQ page, for example, getting into the source. And let's go back and open a different page. I can show you that there is a difference between the JavaScript files. And you can see here, just by looking at the last 4 characters, EDA1 and 94E4. So these are different JavaScript files. PJAX in general, and Instant Click in particular, has a difficult time processing those things. So they have to be inserted here either before Instant Click initialization or after Instant Click initialization. And where you're going to want to put your particular JavaScript files, either before or after, is entirely dependent on your site and setup. So you can try it if you find that you're getting if Instant Click is reloading scripts, and how well. Let's deal with how you would even know that. You would know that Instant Click is reprocessing scripts that otherwise shouldn't be if up here, when you click on something, you get a load. Okay, so it's reprocessing that script. You get a load here. But it's not reprocessing the scripts otherwise. You see? No load. So that's how you would know. And you'd get into your source code for the particular page that Instant Click is continuing to reprocess JavaScript. Copy that file and then enter it either here before Instant Click initialization or after Instant Click initialization. And 9 times out of 10, that's going to cure your problem. But sometimes it's not going to cure your problem. Some of you simply are not going to be able to use this, not unless, for example, you have it actually coded in to your site. But this is the closest thing to a out-of-the-box working PJAX system implementation that is currently possible for WordPress. If in the event that you find that you can't use Instant Click or PJAX in general, well, actually, Instant Click in particular, if you find that you can't use Instant Click, I would very highly recommend that you get what your user journey, what that path is for them down from your data. Get it out of, pull it out of your analytics, and then make use of browser hints, particularly pre-rendering, so that you can eliminate that latency, because latency is murder on page load times, and you want everything, again, the whole goal is to get as close to instantaneous as you can. And Instant Click is appropriately named because it can completely eliminate that latency from page to page navigation, and therefore bring us one step closer to that ever elusive, but we're going to get there, goal of instantaneous page loads. We have instantaneous page loads from one page to the next with Instant Click.